Thank you all very much. Welcome to the School Building Committee meeting, February 27th, 2025, 6 p.m. If we could start with roll call.
Manager Golden,
Here.
Michael Vaughn,
Here.
Eileen Del Rossi, Fred Bahu. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bahu. Superintendent Skinner. Here. Richard Underwood.
Here.
He's on.
Michael Fiato. Here. Connor Baldwin. Here. Mark Byrne.
Here.
James Hall. Sakari Chow. David Peasley. Here. William Samaras. Senator Kennedy. John Leahy. Representative Elliott. Marianne Manzi. Jay Mason. Maria Sheehy. Benjamin Opara. Erica Harvey.
Here.
John Haley.
Here.
Paul St. Cyr.
Here.
Representative Howard.
Here.
Kendrick Delorbe. Janica Lang. We have enough for a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the quorum. Next piece, we're going to look at the acceptance of the minutes. Thank you all very much who have taken a peek at the the December 19th minutes. Is that what I'm looking at here? Yep. December 19th minutes. Are there any corrections, or are we accepting as is? I'll entertain a motion.
Is it possible to
Mr. O'Para.
excuses, well, absences that have been excused instead of, for the minutes? You know what I'm,
No, under Robert's rules, if you weren't here for it, you can't accept it. Is that correct? I want to make sure that I'm on the rules. Yeah.
even when, there was a prior call to show that the person wouldn't be available, wouldn't be attending the meeting. So at least in the minutes, it will be documented that that excuse was, that absence was excused.
Or if people are willing to give us a call and let us know why you can't make it, that'd be fine. We could do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Senator Kennedy.
hi. I was having trouble with getting unmuted, but I'm here, so I just
We can
wanted
clearly
to get
see you.
credit for. Okay.
You know something? You get the gold star, Senator Kennedy. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for
thank
showing up.
Maybe we can on that just to
Okay, yeah,
Be
we can talk to the
certain.
city solicitor.
see if we can accommodate that.
Great. So, looking at, once again, the acceptance of the minutes, does anyone have anything to speak about, change, or accept as is? Move approval, second to move approval?
Second,
Second, thank you very much, Senator. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it, thank you very much. Would like to roll right into the Suffolk Skanska presentation. Jim Dowd, why don't you take us over from there?
Good evening, and I will have Suffolk give their presentation. Ms. Sancho.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I'm just going to run through quickly just the Phase 2 punch list items and the Phase 3 construction update. So starting with Phase 2 punch list, last week was February vacation, so we were able to get into the occupied space to complete some of those punch list items. There's approximately 80 open items for Phase 2. 30 items were completed last week during the February break, and then we have approximately 50 open items for all of the exterior work, which will be done once the weather's warmer during the spring and summer of 2025.
Mr. Bahu? Nope, I just want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Thank you. Is there a way we can get a list of the items that have been taken care of on the punch list?
Yes.
Because we get that list regularly on school committee, and I think it's something that, we're following pretty regularly.
Okay,
So that would be good information for us to have.
we'll send it through the channels.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then moving on to the Phase 3 construction update, just starting with our February milestones. Some of the milestones were to start the finishes in Building C, which you'll see in the progress photos in a couple of slides. We started, obviously, drywall. We did the tile in the corridor and also tile in the bathroom. So Building C right now is pretty much cruise controlled from 3 and down. We also completed the slab-on-grade work on the first floor of C, so we can start working there as well. Start site utilities in Building A, and then just starting the mechanical penthouse work on the roof of Building A. And then moving on to looking ahead in the next couple of weeks, we would like to start finishing the finishes in Building A with drywall and framing. And then just start the exterior masonry facade in Building C along the canal side there by the trolley tracks. Complete the curtain wall framing at the light wells in Building C as well, where the new skylight was installed, and then just complete all of the MEPs in wall rough. So those are some of the milestones that we see for March. In the next couple of slides here, you'll see those photos that I just mentioned. Building C, the new skylight and light well. Is that first photo. The next couple of photos is Building C, the corridor wall tile that has been installed.
Presentation?
Mr. Haley?
Is there any way we can see those on the Zoom? The slides?
I was hoping they was sent out in the email. I'm not sure we have the technology to put that on right now.
Okay, I'll look in the email.
Thank you.
And then the third photo here is just the building, see the bathroom wall tiles that were installed as well. And then the last photo I have included here is just some of the basement slab removals in the basement of Building A.
And while we're on this slide, I know council was informed today, I think some other folks have been informed that in the basement of the 1922 building, we encountered a very large problem with the slab in the basement. When we cut it open to put in new, there'd been a lot of problems with water pipes in the basement over the years, and drainage pipes. The floor was cut out to replace, or sections of the floor cut out to replace that piping. And when Suffolk started cutting the floor, they were cutting squares, which is the typical methodology before they start digging trenches. And the concrete squares of the basement floor were dropping an inch or two, which revealed it was hollow for about a few inches, an inch to 3 inches underneath the floor. We also found that basement slab, which is typically 4 inches, is typically the construction standard for the minimum slab. That was only 2 inches in depth, which was also very concerning. We brought engineers in to examine the floor and found a good portion of the floor was hollow underneath. They don't know what had caused that over the years. There were some organics in the soil. There'd also been water, several floods over the years with the piping in there, and then there was numerous occurrences of water issues in the basement. But this is very problematic with that floor as it is, especially since we had cut up trenches in it to install new piping in the floor. There were no signs of this. The floor had not sagged in any locations. There were no cracking. There was nothing to indicate that this was hollow underneath. The engineers we've on the project that have taken a look at this, both geotechnical and structural, are recommending that we remove the entire basement floor in about 75% of the 1922 in Phase 3 that's exposed right now. In the next couple of weeks, they'll be going into Phase 4, which is occupied by right now, and looking at what's going on under that slab. We anticipate the same condition. The fix is where there are hollow areas, which is a large portion of the slab, is to remove all of the slab, put in micropiles, which is a foundation, a new type of foundation that would be added to support that. The existing foundations cannot hold that slab, and then pour that. That will have significant schedule impacts, also financial impacts. We don't have all of the information right now, as this is a developing issue. We just wanted to make everybody aware. The final solution just came to light yesterday afternoon with the project team. We brought it up at the owners' meeting this morning. Unfortunately, what we're looking at is the likelihood that the basement floor cannot be turned over in August of the 1922 building. All of the classes that are to be housed in there in the fall, we're working with the high school administration. We're meeting tomorrow with Mr. Fiato, but we don't anticipate that we can find a home for those classes, which means we're probably going to have to push out the start of Phase 4. Again, this is developing. We are working to mitigate the issues, but the likelihood is that the start of Phase 4 will be pushed out to January 1st at the end of this year, which would in turn push out the completion of the project most likely to December of '26 from August of '26. We just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Again, this is what we see as the likely scenario, but it is actively playing out. We just wanted to make sure everyone was aware.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd. The council, myself, Assistant City Manager, we were on site on the 15th of February.
Yes.
We had the opportunity to see some of what I would refer to as erosion, not being the engineer, but it was pretty clear that in some aspects it was 4 inches of concrete. In other areas it went, I would even say, to 2 to 1 in some areas. So this is something that was recognized, or we at least saw it, and now it's all coming to light that this is a little bit of a problem. So any questions from Mr. Dowd in regards to this?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The water, is the water coming from leaky pipes, or is it seeping in from the canal? Or have you determined that yet?
We believe it was from leaky pipes, possibly other, or pipes over the years. Joe, would you like to address?
I could help
Sorry.
if you'd like, sure. Although pipe leaks may have contributed to some of it, it primarily has to do with the fact that the material under the slab was not the proper material to support the slab. And the slab has actually subsided, or a better way of saying that is that the soil below the slab has subsided and created these voids. The foundations have gone down that have held up all the structural elements. The walls have gone down significant depths. The soil and the soils there appear to have been properly maintained and prepared, because there's no indication of any structural damage to any of the structural walls. However, the soils adjacent to those deep foundations were not at the same level of quality, and that is our best understanding from our engineers as to why the soil has subsided from under the slab.
So at this time, you don't believe that the water is coming from the canal, that there's seepage from the canal?
No,
Is that
we don't.
correct? Did you say no?
That was no. We don't believe that's the case.
And could you estimate what the square footage of the basement that's been impacted is? Is it the entire basement of the whole 22 building, or is it a section? I'm not looking for exact, but could you give us an estimate?
At this point, the northern portion of the basement of the 1922 building has been uncovered, and we know that. And we're expecting that the condition is probably taking place at the southern portion, which we haven't uncovered yet.
Okay, so you're telling me that you think that it's probably the entire basement of the 22 building?
That's what we expect at this point. That's yet to be determined, though.
Oh, with the
Okay.
clarification that the 90s section of what some people call the 22 building is not the same condition. So that first structural bay was built in the 1990s, and it has a different structural condition. So it's the truly constructed in the 1920s is what we're talking about.
There are also thicker slabs in the mechanical room that we're still looking at with the engineers that they believe may not be a problem, as well as I believe they've looked at the new slabs have already been poured in what were the original gymnasiums. and they don't.
Okay, so you're not gonna be able to complete this part, but is this going to hold up other parts of the project? In other words, that's a big building, so are there other areas of the building that you can work on in the meantime?
Yes, they can work on the first, second, and third floors of the 1922 building. However, we're still evaluating if the 1922 building can be, the other floors can be opened. It is not optimal. First, we don't think we can find temporary classrooms for those students. Working underneath active classrooms is another scenario we have been trying to avoid. And there would also have to be a egress analysis, which could also mean that floors 1 through 3 in the 1922 would not be able to open. The likely scenario is that the 1980s portion of Phase 3 that's currently under construction
Yes.
would be turned over. The southern portion of the 1922 and the 1892, which is the Phase 4, that would remain open next fall, and Phase 4 would start in December, January of 25 into 26. Again, this is a developing situation, and we're still analyzing potential scenarios, and we have to work with the school and how make sure their operations are not adversely impacted.
Mr.
So
Dowd, when do you?
At this point in time, you don't have an estimate of the cost, of what it's gonna cost to take care of this, or what the time estimate is going to be? Is it premature to ask those questions, or for you to know?
We don't have the cost because they're still working on the design, so there hasn't been anything to price yet.
Okay, do you know whether the school district has approached the university about the use of classroom space for the interim?
Superintendent?
Mr. Skinner?
Senator Kennedy, we have not done that. This is news to us today. I will say I have explored for different other reasons space at the university, and there was none available. So we sought a demonstration school space and additional space for programs that are to do with early childhood. The university has not had any available space for those programs. So I can certainly inquire, and it's worth going back with this new possibility. But I'm not particularly hopeful, but I'll certainly try.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, my last question would have to do with the contingency, but I think we'll be taking that up later on in the meeting, right?
Yes, that'd be correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dowd, on the next MBE, WBE, oh, excuse me.
This is John Haley. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr. Haley.
With regards to the basement, was there geotechnical testing or concrete cores that were done prior during the design?
So where we could in the occupied school, we did do testing. And so, but the testing was looking at points where we're going to do new point loads. It wasn't questioning the slab because there was no sign indicating that there would be a reason to investigate it. And the
So
type of
did
testing wouldn't have been that we had been doing wouldn't have found voids.
When they were doing that testing, did they identify what the thickness of the concrete floor was at the time?
Yes.
I think that's
Yep.
pretty
But
standard.
it was localized to a unique area because we were putting in the penthouse columns.
Okay, and what did those show the thickness of the concrete at that time?
I don't have the test reports in front of me, but it was a unique location, so it having a condition did not, we now know is not the common where we're finding elsewhere.
Okay,
Mr. Dowd,
right, well-
oh, sorry, Mr. Haley.
yeah, I'm just curious with the previous flooding you had in the basement and stuff, why this wasn't tested or checked just from a good practice, and probably floor tiles that would be coming up from moisture and everything as a result of that. That's usually something that would be checked with regards to the concrete and the ability for it to hold future tile. So, okay.
So, Mr. Dowd, do you have an idea of when you'll have 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks as to when we'll have a final detailed analysis of what needs to happen in the 1922 building, et cetera?
Our goal is to have a final scenario put together by April 1st.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, Mr. Chairman. Mark
Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, I have a question. If Mr. Dowd mentioned that they don't like to work underneath, classroom space that are going to be done, but to include in maybe their analysis that they work second shift, that it wouldn't impact classroom areas, and that anything above that, they start the work at 2:00 in the afternoon and work 2 to 10. So if they can include that cost analysis in that.
We can include that analysis. That may not be. There's other things that are probably going to be more determining factors than working under occupied spaces.
Mr. Skinner.
Thank you. 2 questions, if I may. You mentioned and made the distinction between this issue and subsidence underneath this slab is distinct from the foundation, which goes down deep and so forth. But are there potential implications for the foundation, and or have you tested the foundation sufficiently given what we now know about the slab and so forth? Are there implications there, or can you give us assurance that the foundation is what it needs to be?
The existing foundations, we have no indication from everything that we've seen so far that would suggest any movement. If there was movement, you would see it in the masonry walls, which are made of brick, above. If the foundation had been moving, you would see cracks in those walls, and there are no cracks of any substance. So there has been a look at that. But it's based on inference. You would expect to see some indication of failure above if something was moving below. So, but specifically, have we excavated down to all bottoms of footings? The answer is no. Because the engineers don't feel as if there's anything to be learned from doing that.
Understood. Thank you. The second question is that previously, before tonight, when the turnover time was going to be August 26th, we had learned of an exception for the auditorium, which was going to be require some special treatment, and that was not going to be turned over at that time. It's going to be back in December 26th. If it turns out that this new development causes the full project to go back to December 26th, would the auditorium coincide with that, or would that also be put back further beyond 26?
That would coincide with that would stay in line with December 26th. This would not. We don't envision this impacting the auditorium.
Thank you.
Mr. Bahu.
Mr. Manager, question on the slab.
Mr. Underwood.
Please. Jim, do we know for sure, well, not for sure, but do we have any indication that it might not be the same condition in the opposite half of the building? The reason why I ask is I know we had some significant slab cuts during the pouring the concrete for the additional steel for the heating units. And I don't remember, I would assume we would have seen that same situation when we cut those large holes in the slabs. Is there a possibility that half the building is not seeing what we're seeing down in the deeper end of the building by the band rooms and chorus rooms?
There's always a possibility, and it's not every location, but it's enough locations that everything. It's not 100% that there's nothing under there from what the engineers are telling us, but there's a possibility that yes, that the south side could be okay, but given that where the engineers sounded it out to the line of phase 3, it likely appears that it's going to continue.
As you may remember, we cut close to 8 by 8 holes in that floor in eight different locations during phase 2 start.
Correct, and I don't recall those having those. That certainly would have piqued
Correct.
everybody's
I don't
interest.
remember seeing that condition in that part of the building, so, but I guess we can be hopeful anyway.
Ricky, those
That's all I
holes,
got to do.
two of those locations, or two of those columns that were 4 locations some of them were going into the slab that was the extra thick foundations, but it was also at a different elevation than the standard basement. So, and they're now realizing there's an explanation for that kind of effort. Have requested the structural engineer come out to phase 4 to do the same level of testing when the school is, afternoon or something, to answer some of those questions if we can confirm if the voids are there as well. So that's in process to be scheduled.
Mr. Bahu?
Sure, Mr. Dowd and team. I'm hearing 75% of the floor is affected, 4-inch concrete to 1-inch concrete, and it's sort of, all over the north building. And we're going to look into the south building, because it almost seems right that if we're doing 3/4 of the work and 75% of it's gone, is it worth it for us to just go ahead and pour a whole new foundation into the south building? Because it just seems like you hate to do it once and then something result in it later. So I think that would be a fair cost analysis as well, because, of the issue of we're expecting to use that building
Yes, but
forever.
we could not perform the work at the same time because that area is currently occupied with students. But should there be voids in those locations, that work would be performed in phase 4. In fact, the team discussed this afternoon that we'd be issuing, once we determine what's under that section in the south, if a field bulletin is necessary, there would be direction issued to change the scope of work in phase 4.
Could that be done together with, during the summer?
It cannot, because that area is currently occupied, and in order to open the area we're in December, if that is in fact what the schedule switches to, we have to start that work now. The south section is going to be occupied until at least mid-June.
So it's a whole separate unit that we're building on, and then we're going to look at that floor and that concrete when we start stage.
We're going to look at as much as we can in the next 2 weeks to get a plan for phase 4.
Right, and we did hear about the Iris Auditorium, and I heard Mr. Skinner's question, but you really believe we can be done this whole project in 21 months due to the asbestos issue at the auditorium, as well as the foundational issue that we're currently dealing with?
That's what we're analyzing in the next month. We got to see what's at phase 4, and we also need to take into consideration in the nature of renovation. We still haven't got into the 1892 building, so there's been investigations. We've done additional investigations, but we don't know what we're going to encounter when we start tearing down walls in the 1892. There's a possibility we could run into as many unforeseen conditions in the 1892 as we have, unfortunately, in the 1922.
So these dates are sort of a moving target.
Unfortunately, it's the nature of renovation. What we believe is there is what the Suffolk has based their schedule off of. If we have unforeseen conditions, the schedule, unfortunately, could change.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
One
Yes.
more question, Mr. Manager, if I could.
Yes,
please.
Mr. Underwood.
Jim, how deep are the footings compared to the slab? And is there any concern with disturbing the soil in this part of the project around the existing footings and slabs walls that are there now?
The depth of the footings varies. I know one that was near one of the elevators they believe that was at 15 feet when they did some exploratory work. So, but different locations have different depths of footings.
So being that deep, we wouldn't assume there'd be any concern with disturbing the soil during removing that slab and getting the equipment down there and stuff? Is that correct?
We'll have the engineers take a look at that.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Dello. Hold on, Mr. Dello.
Thank you, Manager Golden. I think every member has asked every possible question I had about the floor. I would like to pivot quickly. I was just reading through the OAC summary here, and I'm just reading through the logistics, and I'm seeing, quote, Suffolk planned on installing fence over April break. However, manufacture has been quite problematic. The quad canopy fence has been something that's very prominent in terms of its missing. I would definitely say that it's a concern among students as well. As a student, I've seen many members of the public incorrectly try to enter the building through the doors in our quad. We've had to actually manufacture our own sign that says "Enter through Father Morissette." So I'm just wondering if we could get sort of like an explanation as to the manufacturer's issues, and if there's any way, if negotiations fall through, can we be reimbursed for what they're doing?
So the manufacturer Landscape Forms, who works directly for our subcontractor Manual, so they have been problematic. We have a standing meeting with them, and just recently on Monday, we actually had a meeting with the president of Landscape Forms. Essentially, there was a field bulletin that was issued regarding the footings that changed, and then there was also some hardware issues regarding with the hardware at the gate. It took a while to resolve, so we finally came to a resolution at the end of October, which is when we released them on the fence. And then there were some calculations as well. No excuses. They essentially were working on getting those calcs over to us, which was finally submitted like 2 weeks ago. So our goal is to get that release this week or early next week, Monday at the very latest. But currently, right now, they're saying it's about 14 to 16 weeks lead time. And if you do that date, it's probably not going to get here till June. But we're doing everything we can to try to expedite that, working with the president of the owner of the company directly.
Any other questions or thoughts at this time before we move on to WBE?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator.
Yeah, just one more. Do you think for the next meeting, we could get some photographs of the basement so that we could see exactly what the problem is? I think it would be good for members of the building committee, but also for members of the public that watch these meetings.
Yes, we can. We also sent everything out via email, but we'll try to get both completed by next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to MBE, WBE, and workforce progress.
Yep, so right in front of you right now, I have the updates as of February 24th. The minority workforce right now, we're currently at 26.6%, which is approximately 932 workers, and our goal is 15.3. So for this one, we're definitely exceeding the goals. Going on to the female workforce, we're currently at 4.9%. So this one has been slowly creeping up, but we're still not hitting the project goal of 6.9%. And then the Lowell residents, we're currently at 9.48% of all the workers on the project.
Mr. Manager?
Any
I'm sorry. What is
Joe Power?
Sure. What is the threshold for Lowell residents?
I'm sorry,
What is
that?
the threshold for Lowell residents?
We don't have a goal actually for the Lowell residents. This is just something that we're tracking.
For the female workforce, you seem to be having difficulty hitting meeting the requirement?
Yeah, we've been slowly creeping up. Just like at the start, we were only at like 4.2, 4.3, but it's just, with like the specialized workforce, steel, elevators, things like that, there's really no female workers available. So we've been trying to use the electricians, our internal workforce, laborers from like Select Demo, our carpentry, NEFs. So those were like the only ones that we were able to bump up. But specialty trades like Sunrise doing the windows, it's been tough trying to get female workers.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts in regards to MBE, WBE? Any questions or other thoughts? Okay. Moving right along, designer update. Any other designs that we need to discuss at this point in time? Any questions on designer update? Seeing none. Moving on to the budget. Mr. Dowd?
We currently, as I say every meeting, the one thing we track very closely is the construction contingency. We're through change order 31 with $12.8 million utilized in construction contingency out of our original $21.2 million. That leaves us with $8.3 million in contingency that we have for change orders, not for future change orders. We currently have $6.3 million in change requests that are forecasted and under review. What that is actual changes that we have received from Suffolk and that we are currently reviewing and negotiating, as well as items that Suffolk has identified cost events that change orders will be submitted for. Also, rough pricing of field bulletins. This is definitely a liberal number to be on the cautious side, but nonetheless, looking at this with $8.3 million remaining, $6.3 million possibly in play right now, that leaves us with about $2 million. We haven't got into the 1892 building. This does not include this slab issue. So we brought up with the city council in meetings over the last month and a half. We've been with the city council twice, that we're having concerns about that and that there were possible other funding sources within the overall $381 million budget that could be tapped into other areas where we were having savings to offset any potential overages. With the latest items that have occurred, I will say there is a possibility that we will go over budget. We're doing everything in our power to avoid that, but there is a fair possibility. Moving on to the budget update, which is the next slide. January billed $5.1 million. Overall, $251 million has been spent to date. There's $166 million received in reimbursement from the MSBA with, I believe off the top of my head, a $12 million reimbursement with the MSBA that should be paid any day. Any questions on the budget?
Mr. Bahu?
Will the MSBA allow us any more funds based on this issue with the concrete slab, or will this strictly be on the residents of the city?
The MSBA will not provide further reimbursement beyond the project funding agreement.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Byrne. Hey,
Mr. Byrne.
Jim, how much have we bought out on phase 4? Have we bought a lot of it that we might be able to do if we get into a budget problem once you come back with the analysis and give the committee some ideas where we're going? Is there a possibility that we might be able to do some value engineering in phase 4? that won't impact, you know, the job that you're trying to do, but you might have to cut some things because to get there to keep it under the budget or keep it within the budget.
All of Phase 4 has been bought out by Suffolk. We discussed this amongst the project team earlier this afternoon, and I know savings that could be worthwhile to realize without cutting into the program. Once you cut into the program, then you end up violating the agreement with the MSBA. Also, at this point, with everything bought out, the percentage you'd get back of the work you have purchased from the subcontractors, negotiating that at this point would not be worthwhile. You'd end up getting I don't want to say pennies on the dollar, but the percentage you would get of what you had already purchased would not be worthwhile.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks so much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I'm so happy that Mr. Byrne brought that up, because that's exactly what I was going to ask. I'm definitely very worried about Phase 4, but I'm glad to hear that Suffolk has bought that out. You know, as a school, we just brought on an amazing new library media specialist, and she does a great job, but I'm worried about the library and being the fixture of Phase 4. How much of the budget strain that we're having right now, how much is that taking out of the furnishings and equipment that's going to go into Phase 4? Is the library going to be done? Is it going to be watered down from the renderings that we've seen?
Not at all.
Questions? Mr. Bahu.
Last question. I'm curious, it seems like, we're having meetings every 2 months, and now we're sort of hitting a time when there's a lot of questions. There's a contingency issue, there's some asbestos issues, there's concrete issues. Could we have another meeting in 30 days rather than in 60 days, just so that we can all be informed of exactly the progress that's happening here? Because it just seems like 2 months and not really having a lot of information was probably, not in the best interest of this team.
Mr. Bahu, I'd take that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second on the motion? Do I see a second on the motion? Mr. Skinner?
Second.
Mr. Skinner. All in favor of 30-day meetings? We can take a roll call, or we can, whichever the committee provide.
Roll call would be great.
Roll call would be great. Mr. Ball? Now, once again, for anybody here, this would be a meeting every 30 days. Mr. Ball, please call the roll.
Manager Golden?
Yes.
Michael Vaughn?
Yes.
Fred Bahu?
Yes.
Superintendent Skinner? Yes. Richard Underwood? Michael Fiato? Yes. Connor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mark Byrne?
Yes.
James Hall? Sakari Chow? David Peasley? Yes. William Samaras? Senator Kennedy?
Yes.
John Leahy? Representative Elliott? Yes. Mary Ann Manzi? Jay Mason? Maria Sheehy? Benjamin Opara? Yes. Erica Harvey?
Yes.
John Haley? Paul St. Cyr?
Yes.
Representative Howard?
Yes.
Kendrick Delorbe? Yes. Janet Galang?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So just for clarity, I know everyone knows what they just voted on. We're going to try to get it as close to we can in the next 30 days to ensure that this happens. Mr. Bahu.
So Thursday, the 27th would be.
Thursday the 27th?
Thursday, March 27th.
Thursday, March 27th. Thank you, Mr. Dowd. Thursday, March 27th will be the next update.
Mr. Chairman?
We'll just need to confirm here with the room, but we'll put this out in the next day or two. March 27th will be the next meeting. We'll send out an
Chairman?
email to everyone. Senator Kennedy.
Yeah, I think Mr. Dowd earlier in the meeting said that he'd have his estimates ready for April 1st. So it would be good to, if we're having a meeting in 30 days, it would be good to wait a couple of days if it's going to take that long for the estimates to be ready, unless Mr. Dowd can have the estimates ready for the 27th.
Maybe best to push it out another week, which would be April.
With the vote having already taken place, is it all right with the maker of the motion, those who seconded?
It'll be Thursday, April 3rd.
Thursday, April 3rd. Is there a problem? Does anyone have an issue with this at this, we've already voted on it? And I'll take a,
It just makes more sense.
I totally understood, Senator. Just want to make sure we're following the rules. April 3rd? All in favor? All in favor of Thursday, April 3rd? Is that? Any opposed? Any opposed? Any opposed? April 3rd, April 3rd it is. Thank you. Opening it up, any other attachments, any other pieces, any other new business, anything that has any new business at all? Looking around for
I have a,
business.
hi, this is John Haley. I have a question. With regards to the change orders, is there a log that has all the change orders and each of the separate line items in whether they were unforeseen conditions, city requested changes, or design changes?
Yes, that's MSB, the standard MSBA log. We have that.
Okay, can you share that with everyone? I think that would be helpful for folks to see that.
We can provide that to the city to share, yes.
Is that it, Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, new business. New business, looking around, last call for new business. Not seeing any new business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor of motion to adjourn? Any opposed? Thank you all very much. Motion to adjourn for February 27th, 2025.
Can you shut this down?